Hello and welcome to Roadmap 2019. This is the forum where we talk to major stakeholders in Nigeria's journey to the 2019 elections. I am Ladi Akeredoluale. Thanks for joining us. My guest on today's edition of the program is a former student activist, a businessman and politician who believes it is time for a new breed to take the reins of power. My guest says Nigeria can plug huge chunks of its infrastructure deficit by making it easier for investors to come in with their funds. Now, please join us as we talk to the presidential candidate of the People's Trust, Mr. Gbenga Olawepo Hashimi. Mr. Olawepo Hashimi, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Roadmap 2019.
It's my pleasure to meet you.
Now, for those who don't know too much about you, and that would be a large segment of the population, mainly the youth segment, can you introduce yourself a little? Give us an idea of your background. I know you were a student union activist. You went into the pro-democracy movement while the military was on, and so, but give us a little bit of the background since then.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to talk with you. When I was in the School of Basic Studies, as one of the student union leaders in those days, when we were mobilizing against some of the policies of the government of those days that basically was restricting access to education and also trying to destroy the content of education, which the old struggles in the mid-80s was all about. And subsequently, as one of the leaders of NANS in the UNILAG, we continued those campaigns. I mean, I was in detention under Decree Number 2. I was Amnesty International Prisoner of Conscience. And then we were also dealing with the larger issues of democracy in that era. And subsequently, I was National Administrative Secretary of the Committee for Defense of Human Rights. Late Bekora Kuti was General Secretary. I was also National Administrative Secretary of the National Consultative Forum. We're led by the late former president of the Nigerian Bar Association, then Alawa Kabashanu, one of my mentors. And we were really talking about the issue of decentralization of power. And we attempted to organize a national conference, which was dispersed at the National Theatre by the then military government. Subsequently, people like Chief Anthony Enauru also formed their own organization, and then PRONACO and all that. So by that time, I was already active in partisan politics. I was the first publicity secretary of the National Democratic Labour Party, which was led by Ambassador Jolly Tanko Yusuf at that time during the Abacha administration. Era. Eventually, he didn't register our party, and a number of us worked together with progressives from northern Nigeria like Chief Solomon La, Alhaji Abubakar Rimi, and then subsequently Dr. Alex Ekweme's Institute for Civil Society. And I was very active in the G34 then, as it was known. Who were saying, no, Abacha cannot transmute to become civilian president from... and these were very courageous leaders. We were not in exile, we were in Abuja, you know. Just some few meters from the Heart of the Lion then. There were a number of people who were advocating from different Western capitals, but we were in Abuja, and it was a great risk. at that particular time. On the business front, I've always been involved in business since 1991 when I resigned my appointment as National Administrative Secretary in CDHR and the National Consultative, and went into business. And going into business very early after graduation was basically, let me say, an occurrence which I did not design, you know. And this was spurred by the fact that after I graduated, the university administration in UNILAG then, under the pressure of the military government, decided not to release my certificate. And so, technically, maybe only CDHR will consider me for employment. So, the only thing I could do was private business.
Right.
So it was more of
left with no options.
Left with no option, you know, and I had to step into business, and I thank God, yeah, because it was supposed to be an obstacle that became an opportunity. And looking back today, I think it was all divinely organized. And since 91, which is about 27 years, I've been in various businesses, from printing to public affairs, consultancy, to water engineering, you know, civil engineering, and construction companies that I did build, and then subsequently into the energy sector.
Now, let me bring you to the current and your journey, your current journey. You are presidential candidate of the People's Trust, which is a party. It's a registered political party. But there's an interesting story behind it, in the sense that it is also an alliance of several other parties. Now, there are a lot of people, of course it was in the media. Prior to that, you were in ANN, the Alliance for a New Nigeria. And there was some controversy over the selection process of the presidential candidate. Why did you choose the People's Trust after the ANN?
Well, to start with, as you have rightly said, the People's Trust is a platform to make the possibility of a third alternative a realistic possibility. And this is inspired by the fact that under the current scenario, you needed some kind of cooperation, particularly of new political parties, to be able to take power from the APC. And we have always known that whether it was ANN or any other political party, we would need this cooperation, not just of new political parties, but even some patriotic and progressive elements, even in the existing parties. It's not everybody that is in APC or PDP that are totally bad people. Some are good Nigerians, but who might not have the level of faith that you and I have to step out of those. And you always need them. And in the platform that we have built, the Hashimi organization, which is bigger than the PT or any of the new parties, with presence all over Nigeria, we do even have members of the APC and PDP involved in the GHO. So that's to tell you the bigger picture, because the bigger picture is that you want to have a new Nigeria and you need a big platform. Now, specifically to your question, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. In 1999, Chief Olufalaye was the candidate of the Alliance for Democracy. But under the alliance agreement of the APP, he had to leave his platform to run on the platform of the APP. So, and that didn't mean that he abandoned the AD, as it were. So I think that there is not a clear understanding of politics with new players, especially new entrants to party politics. Otherwise, alliances and merger has always been part of our history and is not rocket science that is very difficult for anybody to understand.